to go back up to Chopper 5 now over Minneapolis as some frustrated and angry protesters have been taking to the streets for 3 days now. Our pilot, Ken Melchior, is up in the air in the chopper. Ken, what are you seeing right now?
Well, the protests in downtown Minneapolis started at the government center. They marched down 7th, then north on Nicollet, back on Washington, and then returning to the government center here. It's been strictly nonviolent. It's a peaceful protest. We haven't seen any mayhem, any damage, any looting, anything of the sort in downtown Minneapolis. Right now, back at the government center, you can see signs are being thrust into the air. They've actually tried to point it at the helicopter a couple of different times, but it is peaceful and nonviolent at this time. Back to you.
So, Ken, it looks like this has made a complete path then, and everyone is just kind of standing there at this particular point. So this scene, how many people would you estimate that you see here throughout this entire process?
There would be maybe 100 to 200. They're spread out. There's quite a bit of social distancing that we can witness from up above here. They continue to be spread out, so sometimes it's a little difficult to estimate the numbers. We'll go with about 200.
And Ken, you know, it was right around this time yesterday that things started taking a turn. That's when we started seeing the large police presence, you know, kind of holding that strong line. You're not seeing that out there today, are you?
No, the peaceful protest down by the 3rd Precinct turned to non-peaceful at about 6:15 when officers on foot and horseback came out of the building in force, deploying tear gas along Lake Street and spreading the protesters both east and west. And from there was always the challenge of authority by the protesters and the regain of control by police. And then from there, the looting started. From there, under the veil of darkness, the fires began. But this morning, after the fires had been extinguished, most of the protests that we've seen so far have been peaceful. There has been a couple incidents where attempted looting has occurred, but police have been on top of that right away. Back to you.
Okay, Ken Melchior from Chopper 5 as he looks over downtown Minneapolis, where Ken telling us most of the protests have been peaceful in the Minneapolis side. We've seen some problems over in St. Paul that we are working on right now. And you know, the fire that was set there last night, it was one of about 30 fires that were intentionally set in Minneapolis overnight. Fire crews say that they were in that area along Lake Street East. At least 16 of those were buildings. Chopper 5 flew over that scene. At one point, the smoke was so thick, it appeared on weather radar. And firefighters say no people were hurt from the fires, but some of their equipment was damaged by people throwing rocks there.
And our Crystal Bowie is on the ground monitoring protests as well. Crystal, what are you seeing?
Jackie and Paul, certainly a very different scene here than other parts of town. The protesters are gathered in one large group here. They were actually blocking traffic right now. You might have been able to see that from Chopper 5, actually. We did have a bunch of cars having to do a U-turn in the middle of the intersection. And then at one point, I did get a little worried because there was an ambulance with its sirens on trying to get through the crowd. The crowd did actually quickly disperse on both sides of the sidewalk so that they could get through. And then they actually applauded for the emergency workers that had to get through. So certainly a very different tone here right now than what we saw, of course, at the first protest, the first night, and of course, yesterday's protest. But again, very large crowds, over hundreds of people out here. We'll keep an eye on it and bring you updates, of course, online at kstp.com. Reporting live in Minneapolis, Crystal Bowie, 5 Eyewitness News.